This video is to highlight the IPM programs for agronomic crops, housing, schools, pesticide applicators, specialty crops, and pollinators in Tennessee. Our goal is to develop programs and deliver programs so that stakeholders have the necessary training and resources to make IPM recommendations and decisions that are effective, economically sustainable, and environmentally sound. University of Tennessee Extension has a long history of providing transdisciplinary IPM programs to clientele. The project investigators have used previous Extension Implementation Program funding from USDA NIFA, as well as leveraged with other funding to develop a framework of programs critical to implementation of IPM. This has included a synergistic relationship with other UT scientists, a strong county-based extension program, and with extension programs across the nation that help to disseminate and evaluate IPM programs. Specifically with the primary priority area of IPM implementation in agronomic crops, our efforts directly address the efficiency of suppression tactics and will demonstrate least cost options and management alternatives to encourage crop production practices and pesticide use that optimize control while minimizing negative effects on the environment and human health. Within our group, we have UT Extension specialists from disciplines including entomology, weed science, plant pathology, soil science, and agronomy. Some of our specific objectives include continuing to develop and update web-based IPM applications for field crop management, including our utcrops.com and other suite of applications online. Additionally, we continue to monitor and report native and exotic insect pests and diseases, as well as evaluate for Bt and fungicide resistance, including in-lab assays. I'm Heather Kelly, Field Crops Plant Pathologist and IPM Coordinator at University of Tennessee. And so while I'm the lead of the EIP program, I also help organize the agronomic crops priority. And so with that, one of our big goals is to train not just our farmers, but our trainers, the county extension specialists, if you will, the county agents. And with that, we do in-field training. So such as here, getting ready, when we do soybean scout schools every year, we take them to the field and try to not just teach them about the pests and pathogens that they would encounter and how to manage them, but even how to correctly growth stage a soybean plant. So here, looking at it and seeing blooms all the way up is at R2. So this is ahead of R3, one of the main stages that you want to be scouting for to determine if a fungicide product would need to be applied or not, and be looking for diseases. Also, we do a cotton scout school, and so behind us are some plots for understanding disease, as well as how different agronomic practices can affect that. And so while they're just seedlings right now, this is a row spacing study to better understand a new emerging foliar pathogen in cotton and how it could spread differently in different row spacings. And so that's one of the aspects, again, of this grant, is understanding and evaluating different management practices and their effects on pests and diseases. And then with that, we have our field days and our trainings to then bring that information to our clientele.
I'm Steve Brown, the Field Crop Research and Extension Entomologist for the West Tennessee Research and Education Center. So our project objectives for the IPM grant is essentially we help train agents, and that we do that through several scout schools. So we have a cotton scout school, and we have 3 soybean scout schools that are typically held in West Tennessee, East Tennessee, and Middle Tennessee. And so on top of that, we have deliverables that we have when it comes to insect control guides and updating web-based information for IPM and insect management that we put on our website. So our project outputs essentially are going to be we do scouting notebooks, and we do essentially, that's the output and outcome. You know, we train our agents, and then we give them something to take home. We also train our growers and our crop consultants. And so along with the training, we give them deliverables, notebooks, everything they would need, insect control guides that they would need to help scout in a field. And then with the web-based, we update all of our web-based information typically every year when we get new data in based on our trial work. So the public value is going to be within, very similar to other programs. It would be several millions of dollars across all of our crops that we work in. And so between insect management and corn, cotton, soybeans, grain, sorghum. And so, based on our trainings and the things that we do as extension through with, the EIPM grant, through support of the EIPM grant, it would be within the several millions of dollars. Integrated pest management is going to be something that's very, near and dear to me as an entomologist, and so that's something that we preach very, very common, very readily. That's part of our main message, if not the main message of what we talk about as extension specialists. And so it's going to be, following thresholds, utilizing judicious use of insecticides, and so preserving beneficials. That's all kind of plays part into what IPM is. Planting date considerations, agronomics, all these things that cross disciplines, not just entomology. You have, weed science, plant path, agronomy. We all work together to essentially form these IPM recommendations. And then as far as how the EIPM grant helps, that is that money helps fund my research technicians. It helps put together our scout schools, so we have the ability to travel, we have the ability to put the publications together, the monetary ability to buy everything we need, and so that's really a fundamental component of our IPM program, is having the support of the EIPM grant.
This research has had a real impact on Tennessee agriculture. In such that we're able to identify herbicides that are starting to fail in a particular field for a farmer, and then we'll be able to give him different tactics, suggest different tactics to help control those weeds that, quite frankly, integrate cultural practices in with herbicides. So not just relying on one tactic, herbicides, but integrating a couple different tactics to try and effectively control them. So some of the specific projects we've done, one of the things is some of the new tactics from like the See and Spray from John Deere that has a camera in the front and basically just only sprays the weed, so it cuts the spray on when it hits the weed as it's going across the field. We're doing some research there, developing tactics that would better control weeds with that system and how to fine-tune that system to better fit weed control here for the struggles we have in West Tennessee. Other things we've been doing is trying to identify, a lot of times farmers, they'll have an issue in a field where a herbicide didn't work. Sometimes it's not due to resistance. Sometimes it's due, it maybe rained an hour afterwards and it washed the herbicide off, or some other thing came about. The only way to know that for sure is actually do research in the field and follow up in the greenhouse to be able to identify it and try and do kind of an early warning on a new resistance developing to another herbicide. They've really helped us put that research trials out from farmers' fields and also in the greenhouse to be able to kind of give an early warning to farmers that some of these herbicides are going to be failing and we got to start adjusting tactics as a result. A lot of number of things in the future we want to do as far as using those funds, and really grateful for those funds. I couldn't hire the folks I've been able to hire, and some of them have gone on now into agriculture and the crews, or they probably wouldn't have otherwise. But that research just couldn't get done without the people. I have to have the folks to be able to do it. There's a lot of intricacies to it, and you need a number of good folks to be able to help you lay out research trials, get them sprayed, help rate them, help maintain them. I couldn't do it without those folks and that support from that grant.
Hey everyone, my name is Jake McNeil, and I'm the Extension Corn and Soybean Specialist with the University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture. I'd like to talk about how I and my research program have utilized EIP grant funding for the implementation of IPM practices in Tennessee, and particularly corn and soybean crops. A few examples of how we've utilized these funds have been to develop and keep updated a searchable database, which you can find at utcrops.com. A couple of specific examples would be that we now have various pest, weed, and disease guides. These can be identified and management practices listed. We also have a searchable variety database, corn, cotton, soybeans, wheat. And we also have a blog page whereby you can utilize utcrops.com to access up-to-date posts for in-season management issues for IPM topics. In the state of Tennessee, we have ag agents in each of the 95 counties in our state. And as a result of EIP grant dollars and how we have utilized them, we have seen the adoption of IPM practices across our state increase dramatically. A second objective that we have accomplished with EIP funds have been to coordinate and facilitate intensive in-season agent training with ag agents across our state, educating them on practices that will allow them to adopt and utilize IPM management. Specifically, 2-day agent in-service trainings are held annually to address knowledge gaps and current management practices with agents across our state. Specific examples of these include, of course, IPM management, soils and nutrient cycling, variety selection, and of course, pest and disease management. IPM, or integrated pest management, truly is an integrated approach requiring all of our best efforts. However, when adopted and utilized effectively, it is the best means by which we can improve both on-farm profitability and increase the environmental sustainability of our production practices.
My name is Tyson Raver. I'm the cotton and small grain specialist here at the West Tennessee Research and Education Center with the University of Tennessee. My role in the EIP project was predominantly focused on extension agent education as well as variety testing. We're actually standing right now in a variety trial that would be established with funds like what we got from the EIP project. We run these type variety trials all through West Tennessee and Middle Tennessee, basically so we can represent or capture variety response in all of Tennessee's cotton producing areas. So we have several deliverables. First and foremost, we're going to take these variety trial results, analyze those, generate turnout and fiber quality, analyze that, and then compile that and publish it in a extension publication that we'll deliver to our clientele. That'll often be delivered either online or individuals will come to the extension offices in each county and pick that information up to have an idea of what varieties best fit on their farms. We also use some of these funds and some of these locations to help train our county agents. We've got a large group of young agents. We had a big retirement of a lot of our seasoned agents in the recent past few years. And so we use these to kind of help train the agents to understand what's different between each variety, what characteristics we're looking for, how do we manage the crop, not only from a maturity standpoint and fruit retention, but late season from a defoliation, plant growth regulation, basically from A to Z. We're going to be able to produce more per acre with less input, create the most economic value from each of these acres, and then passing that information along to our agents, who can then in turn pass it to the clientele. Tremendous amount of value in just the variety testing program alone. Conservative estimates of the value consistently break millions of dollars just for the state of Tennessee.
My name is Mtifafa Adote. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Biosystems Engineering at University of Tennessee, and I'm also the soil fertility and nutrient management specialist at Tennessee. For this EIP project, there are two objectives that we're looking at. The first one is to look at the relationship between soybean plant nutritional status and frog eye leaf spot disease. And the second one is looking at how to optimize, or what is the optimal nitrogen fertilizer recommendation for dryland corn production systems in Tennessee. We've published part of the results from the nitrogen trial, the nitrogen management trial at utcrops.com. We've also presented part of this information at grower meetings as well as in-service training. One of the impact we see, particularly from nitrogen management, is that we don't want farmers to under-apply or over-apply. And what our research did was it has given us results that we are confident enough to share with growers. And the results from the plant nutritional studies, we're working on it. But one thing we saw was that potassium nutrition had a very strong relationship with disease susceptibility.
I'm Karen Vale, the Extension Urban Entomologist at the University of Tennessee. Today I'm going to talk to you about some of the programs that we have with the Extension Implementation Program. I have two programs. One is for implementation and training of housing IPM. And here we've been promoting the use of building-wide inspections for bed bugs. Most managers, housing managers, rely on residents to report a bed bug infestation, and they're unaware of how widespread the infestation is in their buildings. So we come in, and generally we go to low-income high-rises for the elderly and disabled. That's where we're seeing the highest infestation rates. And we'll go in, and two people go in. It takes us about 3 minutes to go through a building, through an apartment, I should say. I'll go do the bed. We take the bedding off. We look around the edges, the obvious places where the bed bugs will be found. My support staff then go to the upholstered furniture in the living room, and we'll look there and maybe turn pillows over, but we don't turn or flip any furniture. So we just go to the hot spots, and we can find the bed bugs if they're there typically. If we're suspicious that they're there but we can't find them, like we see cast skins or fecal specking, or we see cans of bed bug spray next to the bed, or the resident happens to be there and mentions they were getting bit or they saw a bed bug, then we put out monitors. These are basically, well, I have one here. These are just a plastic dish that's angled. It's rough on the outside. The bed bugs can climb up, and they're trying to, we put these under the legs of the bed or the legs of the upholstered furniture. Carbon dioxide is the long distance draw for bed bugs, and so they're negatively geotactic, so they're climbing up towards that carbon dioxide. They climb up the rough surface, and then they fall into the smooth surface, and they can't make their way out. And so we'll come back, we'll place these where we suspect bed bugs are present, but haven't found them, and come back 2 weeks later and inspect the monitors. And so we've done that for this grant from 2021 through 2024. We've gone through 7 buildings, and we've averaged less than 20%, about 18%, the lowest infestation rate being 3.4%, but all the way up to 45% infestation with bed bugs. Along the way, we started noticing cockroaches were abundant in these apartments too, and so a few of these inspections we put out sticky traps for cockroaches. So we would go in and put one by the sink, under the sink, by the stove, by the refrigerator, and then one behind the toilet in the bathroom. And then when we come back 2 weeks later, we would check. And what we realized is that the German cockroach infestation rates are much worse than what we were seeing with bed bugs. And the 4 buildings we went into, some of them high-rises, some of them just one-story buildings, we averaged 76% infestation rates. So we'll have a greater emphasis on cockroach inspections going forward. With bed bugs, we know they're a hematophagous ectoparasite, right? They like to feed on blood of humans and birds and bats. So we're aware that they're a nuisance, and they can cause a small physical reaction. Most of our concern with bed bugs is a mental health issues associated with stress. Well, with German cockroaches, it's a more serious public health threat. We have, they're walking in very environments that may have pathogens, walking through garbage cans and maybe sewers, and then walking onto our food preparation surfaces. So there's a chance for food pathogen transmission. But more serious than that is the allergic response their feces, their caskins, and the cockroach itself can cause. They leave behind allergens, and they can cause your typical response, teary eyes, sneezing, and can even trigger an asthma attack. So cockroaches are more serious, and we will be spending more effort in the future looking at cockroaches. One of our objectives for the grant, besides these demonstrations, was to compare pre-COVID to near the tail end of COVID. And so we went back to some of these buildings from 2019, before the pandemic, and then we went there again in 2022. And while managers thought that the pandemic had kept the bed bug problem down because people weren't traveling as much, they were more confined, once again, they're relying on resident reporting. And in one case, we found the bed bug infestation rate more than doubled and in another building it increased by 50% more. So again, this problem of relying on residents to report is an issue. The pandemic did not decrease bedbug infestation rates. In fact, it looked like it increased it, at least in the 2 cases that we had. We hold an annual bedbug, cockroach, and rodent management meeting. This year will be our 10th annual meeting. I think one of the unique things about our conference is that we have pest management professionals, we have housing personnel, we have social workers, we have manufacturers, vendors present. And so we get many of the different stakeholders that are involved in solving this problem. We'll have speakers come from throughout the nation to come speak on these topics. And then at the end of the day, we get together and problem solve. And we try to set it up so that you're in a group with these different stakeholders. And so you're getting a different perspective. You're less likely to point fingers and blame, and more likely to look forward to finding solutions by working together. And I think we've been fairly successful. Through program evaluations, we've documented a 79% increase in our stakeholders at these meetings that are now using building-wide inspections. So the pandemic also caused us to shift from working, as I said, interior schools. And since we couldn't get inside, we devoted some efforts to developing this bedbug resource box. In here we provide a resin display of bed bugs, all the different stages. We have a blackout bed bug detector, as I mentioned earlier. And then we have publications pertaining to bed bugs that we've produced through this grant. So we have infographics, a little simpler with images rather than words. Bed bugs, working with them in housing, what schools need to know, our building-wide bed bug inspection techniques, and then a general managing bed bugs in different environments. So all these, each school system received one of these, and then all the housing managers, we go to the Tennessee School Plant Management Association meetings and our annual bed bug, cockroach, and rodent meeting, we distributed these. Our other program that we have with the EIP is school integrated pest management. So we want to manage pests found in and around schools in a way that we reduce and balance the risk from both the pests and the pesticide exposure. We've been doing this program since 1996, so a long time. We've spent most of our efforts up until the pandemic focused on interior pests. But with the pandemic, we shifted gears and we decided to focus on public health pests outdoors, so imported fire ants and ticks. We know fire ants have been a problem in the state for decades, since the mid-'80s, so we've been dealing with fire ants. But more recently, we've had the black-legged tick and the pathogen associated with Lyme disease be found in East Tennessee. And so we've decided to focus on dragging for ticks around schools to determine what ticks are present and what the potential risk is for students that are out either playing on the playgrounds, or maybe they have an outdoor classroom which may be sitting in the middle of the woods where ticks are more abundant. So we've decided to conduct demonstrations with school systems where we get together, we talk for an hour or so discussing fire ants, why they're a problem, how to manage them, and then we go out to the field surrounding the schools and we give school personnel the spreader, and we go through on how to calibrate and how to apply a broadcast application. And so we typically emphasize broadcasting baits for fire ants because it gets the bait over a large area, and all the different size mounds, the small mounds, the large mounds, those ants are all going to come out, feed on that bait, and bring it back into the mound, and you're less likely to miss the small mounds. So we've been doing that at school systems in different parts of the state. We've been dragging for ticks. We'll go once a quarter we typically hit the wood grass interface and around playgrounds where where there's walking paths and where the kids are likely to be found outdoors. And predominantly we've found 3 tick species, the Lone Star tick, the American dog tick, and the black-legged or deer tick. So we do have the common ticks that are found in Tennessee are found on our schoolyards. And so then after we go through the year, we meet with the school system, show them all the maps of where we found the ticks, and then go through how they can improve the conditions to reduce the prevalence of ticks around their property. And we have developed a nice publication, the Managing Ticks on School Grounds. And so this publication, it has pictures, talks about the common myths associated with ticks. We've got all the species and where they're found and what their risks are, the health risks associated with them, and how to remove a tick should you find one attached, and then how to drag for ticks, and then where on the property you're most likely to find ticks, the areas you should concentrate on. And then ticks are found in areas that retain moisture, so removing leaf litter, cutting down tall vegetation, grass, so you don't have grass overhanging pathways, so people aren't being exposed to ticks that way, and how to communicate with parents on for tick prevention and for tick checks at home if the kids have been outside. And we share this publication with the school. Yeah, we're grateful for this grant. It gives us the funds to support our activities out in the field, so we can actually demonstrate hands-on demonstrations to the end user, so they learn how to do these things rather than us just presenting in a classroom or producing publications. We actually go there, we demonstrate how to do it correctly, and then we have them do it. So it's beneficial for all our stakeholders to receive funding from this grant.
Hello, I'm Darryl Hensley. I'm the Pesticide Safety Education Coordinator at the University of Tennessee. I provide trainings for private applicator as well as commercial applicators here in the state of Tennessee. My primary thrust is with commercial applicators that I do a lot of training in person. Private applicator training, I develop training materials for our county personnel, and they present those topics to their clientele in the counties. For commercial applicator training, prior to starting off the training, I hand out surveys, and basically it's questions, and the questions are dealing with mainly IPM, and I incorporate those into the testing as well. But I want the individuals there at the training to understand how important IPM is in their application of pesticide products. So I do ask them a lot of questions, like when should they be applying a pesticide if they're applying outside to protect bees. And so I have a question on there, when should you apply the pesticide product? In the morning, in the evening, in the middle of the day? And so they go through and select the proper answer and kind of get an idea from them prior to them going through the training to see what they do know. After I go over a lot of the information that deals with integrated pest management, or IPM, at the following of covering everything information-wise, I give them the same test over again and see if they improved. And the majority of them do improve, and I'm glad they do. However, what I have noticed by providing the same exam, during the true exam over the materials, they are less likely to second guess themselves. So I don't see as much erasing of answers and then going back and selecting another answer. And they usually get their questions correct on the exam. So I see a lot of improvement on the testing. Since COVID, I've changed up some of my methods. Instead of handing out papers, we have gone to using Microsoft Forms, where we can use a QR code. And all they have to do is come into the classroom, and they usually have their cell phones with them. They take a snapshot of the QR code, which takes them to a website, and they answer the same questions that I had on paper. And it makes it a whole lot easier for me when I go through and grade the information, and I just look at those grades and the pre-test grades and compare them to the post-test grades and see if there's improvement. On the private applicators, I provide information to our county personnel, training modules. And now in Tennessee, private applicators are required to get points just like commercial applicators to retain their certification. Our certification cycle in Tennessee is a 3-year cycle, and commercial as well as private have to get points or CEUs to maintain their certification. We've put together a presentation on labels so individuals can understand the label a little bit better than they do, and so I've shown them a label where the common name would be located, the trade name's located in the label, as well as how you apply these products. Just because you apply it in soybean production does not mean that's the way you apply it in cotton production. So you've got to read the label, know where to find the information, and put 2 and 2 together to make sure you're applying the product properly. And in the pesticide safety education program, we were very grateful to be able to obtain resources that help improve our program, as well as make individuals more knowledgeable about integrated pest management, because I feel like if you don't have to use a pesticide, that's helping you in the wallet, and that's a great thing for our applicators out there.
I want to thank everyone for the opportunity that the USDA CPPM EIP grant has provided us at the University of Tennessee. I work with beekeepers as well as other stakeholders that interact with pollinators. So whether those be growers, whether they be gardeners, whether they also be people like veterinarians or extension agents that are trying to help the stakeholders, the funds from these grants allow us to not only improve our programs, but allow us further access into communities that we wouldn't normally have access to. So we really appreciate these opportunities. One of the really fun things that we're able to do is to bring together different levels of stakeholders that interact with pollinators. So most of my time is spent with beekeepers, and it's allowed me to do more with my master beekeeping program and spending more time in terms of teaching integrated pest management philosophies and strategies to those beekeepers to effectively monitor for things like parasitic mites, to make the best and informed decisions in terms of doing treatments and management. It also helps us in terms of gardeners, in terms of doing IPM, but the additional P being pollinators, so IPPM, in terms of not only planting pollinator forage like we have around here at the beautiful UT Gardens, but also being able to manage and maintain those gardens in ways that are less harmful to pollinators that we want to encourage through our plantings. We also work with veterinarians in terms of having opportunities to train them on the areas where we need their assistance in the beekeeping community with the proper use of antibiotics and the prescriptions for antibiotics, but also informing them of the other issues that exist in beekeeping colonies and the beekeeping community, so they can tell the difference between the different issues and factors that we have in the beekeeping community. The other area is a pretty important one, is working with the extension agents, because we have extension agents in all 95 counties of Tennessee. And as much as I would like to be able to reach everyone in all 95 counties, I can't handle that all by myself. So through our Train the Trainer programs, I'm able to put on trainings for agents every year, providing them opportunities for hands-on activities as well as lectures, and showing them videos of what it's actually like to deal with stakeholders, so they can take that information back to their counties and spread the word there, and then communicate back to me in terms of how these programs are working. So we're really grateful to have these opportunities, and also it's really important for us to be able to have these funds to make these programs as strong as they can be. We will try to find ways to continue going, but we really, really want to put on the best programs and reach as many stakeholders as we can. And again, we have many different stakeholder groups in Tennessee, and we really want to bring them all together in terms of areas like pollination. It's really cross-pollination across different stakeholder groups that's going to lead to the effective and sustainable pollination programs that we have across the state. So thank you very much, and we look forward to working with you in the future.